Here's Director Elliott.
We'll go ahead and start the recording.
Beautiful.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, we've reached 3:30. I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 1st Qathet Regional District Board meeting. We have an agenda in front of us. I note there is one change to it, item 15.1. The proposed to go into closed session. We're going to remove that from the agenda. So, are there any other changes that you know of? No. Okay. So, with that change, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda? Director McCormick, seconded by Director Gisborne. Any discussion? None. All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. We're not adopting any minutes.
Yep.
No delegations, no unfinished business, and we have one item of correspondence. Does have business from said correspondence. There's a motion in the package. McCormick, Director Doubt.
7.1.
Thank you. Director Doubt seconds. Any discussion? Director Gisborne?
Yeah, I'm happy to support this. As you know, that was the old hospital site, and I've always been a little sad to see it as just a gravel lot, and it's very exciting to see the Tla'amin Nation with the proposal for housing on that old site. And myself, like many other folks in the community, was actually born there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Doubt.
I just want to point out that this is an unusual piece of land. It is designated with the agreement of the city as treaty settlement land, which is basically outside of the control of the city, but is within the city, and it's a kind of an unusual situation. And I'd really like to see it developed into housing and in a good place for a good reason.
Great, thanks. And Director Lennox.
Thank you, Chair. I also support this motion wholeheartedly. As I drove back north after our last meeting, I happened to see activity at the site, and there's literally shovels in the ground. So it looks like things are moving ahead. So it's excellent to see. Housing, of course, anything like that in our region is awesome. I appreciate the inclusion of the sample letter, although I'm sure our CAO and staff can create something that really speaks from the chair and the board. I support the motion and the new era for T-Squat in the old hospital lands. Thanks.
Great. So seeing no other hands, I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. So consent agenda. Does anybody wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing no hands, would somebody like to move this? Directors Gisborne and Elliott. There's no discussion on that. Just all in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. Great. We are down to no resolutions, no reports, down to bylaws. 12.1. Would somebody like to read that out for me?
I move that the board give first and second reading to the Qathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.9 2024.
Seconded by Director Elliott. Any discussion?
No.
Oh.
I'm voting on it.
Okay.
Ahead of the game.
Let's catch up to Dr. Dowd. All in favor? Any opposed? See no opposed, motion carries.
I move that the board give third reading of the Qathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.9 2024.
Seconded by Director Elliott. Any discussion? None. All in favor? None opposed, motion carries.
I move that the board adopt Qathet Regional District Cemetery Regulation Amendment Bylaw number 511.9 2024.
Here, seconded by Director Elliott. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed. So I just say any opposed? Director Foley didn't have your hand up, so I assume you're.
Oh, I don't get to vote.
Oh, yeah, good point. Okay, sorry about that.
It's not on the list. No E on there.
There's no E on there.
I'm the odd one out here on this one, so.
Motion carries unopposed. Thank you. New business. Invite Joseph R. Scaife from Young Anderson to present. Director Gisborne.
I put forward a slightly alternative motion based on some input that I heard from other directors. And if I get a seconder, I'll speak briefly to it.
Seconded, anybody want to second it? Director Lennox? Go ahead.
Okay, I'll speak briefly to it. Yeah, for those of us that attended the AVICC session that was done by Joseph R. Scaife, it was an excellent session. And then when I was watching, I think it was the City Council of Powell River meeting where there was a lot of discussion around, C3 meetings. There was some questions about like what is legal, what is not legal. There's been a lot of confusion in the community. There's been a lot of contention. And I figured, you know what, that presentation was really good. And maybe it would also be very beneficial for us to have a similar presentation at a public meeting where that way we can all kind of get a good understanding. The public can get a good understanding of what is the difference between a forum, an open meeting, a closed meeting. And this motion also then had a bit of extra in it around specifically those kind of forums, gatherings, meetings between city, regional district, and Tla'amin. And I figured, then this is why, it's a motion about a lawyer in a public session, but I don't think it's going to be getting into any kind of specifics around, what's our regional district doing with Tla'amin around any kind of specific thing. It's more of, hey, how do we all get a good understanding? How does the public get a good understanding? And that way we can move forward together collaboratively. And that's also why this motion also includes that the City of Powell River Council and the Tla'amin Nation Executive Council also be invited to attend. And then hopefully we can all have some fruitful discussions and then move forward with however it is that we're going to work collaboratively in this community. So.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Director Fall?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question through the chair, if I might. Do we have funding in the budget for this? I don't know exactly where the funding would come from, administration service, I assume, but do we have funding for such a request?
Who would like to take that? CAO?
Through the chair, yes, we have legal fee funding that we could appropriate this to.
Thank you.
Director Dowd?
Yeah, it was a great session at AVICC where there were many local delegates were there with great interest. The lawyer knew what he was talking about, had a great presentation and reviewed a lot of cases. But it is important to point out that he said he wasn't giving legal advice, and it was important to realize that. If we want specific legal advice, we'll have to get it in other ways.
Yeah, Director Elliott?
I think it's a really good idea. I'm wondering, from the staff perspective, if there's anything that we need to carefully consider about this request that comes to mind from the staff perspective.
SF, CAO?
And through the chair, nothing at the top of my head. No.
I'm just gonna speak to this. I do have some concerns just over costs that this could bring on board. No, you don't think so? Or are we thinking just a Zoom session so that everybody could attend from different locations, or?
Through the chair, I'll find out what Mr. Scaife's schedule is like, and that'll probably dictate, but I won't rule out with him the opportunity for Zoom.
Okay, so we would get some, you would come back to us with some idea, I guess better fleshing out what this would look like. Appreciate that. Director Lennox?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I had the same question around where the money comes from. Seems like there's probably a reasonable bucket for that, and as well as, this is where we should be leveraging the provincial government on their commitment to be supporting some of these meetings that are occurring, and I think this falls under that category. So I encourage us to, again, speak up and say, this is where you can help us, depending if it's a significant cost, of course. And I do support the intent because anything personally I can learn and the board can learn, but also I think the public and or other stakeholders in the community, right? So it's if it improves our knowledge and this discussion that we're all trying to improve on open and closed meetings, I support it. Thanks.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on it? Seeing no hands, all in favor? None opposed, motion carries. And question period. A quick one.
Hello, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Just with regard to the item concluded, Director Gisborne had mentioned public access. Was that his intention? His motion only mentions inviting the city and Tla'amin Nation as well, but I was wondering if his intention was that it be open to the public.
I don't know. I think I'll pass it to Director Gisborne, but I'm thinking maybe it's still kind of in a fleshing out stage because we don't even know if it would be held in person or Zoom or we need more information, but if Director Gisborne would like to answer.
Yeah, my intention was that this be held in a public meeting, and I believe it was Director Doubt that had pointed out if we're going to get into specifics, I'm sure most people are aware, when you get into specific legal advice, you go in camera. But the presentation that we had at AVIC was very general and kind of broad. So the intention of the motion was to do it at a public meeting in the future, because it's kind of like a preemptive thing. Because otherwise, if the public starts going like, "Hey, what's going on? Is this a forum? Is this a meeting?" And this way, if we get this kind of understanding collectively, hopefully it can kind of save us some headache in the future if we all know what we're doing and the public kind of comes along with us in a way. So that was my intention, was that hopefully it's done in public in the future, but we'll see what happens, because the motion was that the board directs staff to invite Joseph Scaife. So we'll see what Joseph comes back with. So
okay, thanks very much. Anything else, Mr. Galinsky?
No, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the director's response. Hopefully I can attend.
Okay. We've reached the end of our agenda, so this meeting is adjourned. Thanks.
11 minutes.
Wow.
Good night, everyone.
Recording stopped.
Bye, Jason.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy the